Hello and welcome to the Parent Survival Kit podcast. From surviving to thriving in your household, my name is Gene Schwalen, and next to me, as always, is my beautiful bride, Dr. Sonia Schwalen, pediatric psychologist expert and nationally certified school psychologist. Today, we're going to dive into part 2 of our 2-part series, Co-Parenting After Divorce. So last week, we talked about just what does co-parenting look like through divorce, after divorce, lots of challenges that are presented, obviously, mostly that we bring about ourselves, you know, just with our own emotional baggage and outlook and whatnot and feelings that we just have to deal with and go through. So today we're going to talk about co-parenting in the blended family setting, which brings on a whole lot more new challenges. So I want to just kind of start with really, let's look at marriage in itself. So marriage in itself is wonderful, and it's the honeymoon stage that we go through and whatnot that doesn't last for very long, not long enough, right? For most couples.
That honeymoon phase?
The honeymoon phase, yeah.
Okay.
You know, for some it could be 2 or 3 months. For some it could be 2 or 3 years. You know, ours is going on 5 years now and still going, but, you know, that's not normal. And we even have had other married couples at church comment on our honeymoon phase and whatnot, right? So it's definitely something that's talked about. So in the blended family setting, which we are as well, that can look a lot different, you know, to begin with, because if we're a blended family, not only are we learning each other in this new phase of life and each other's habits and weirdness and all the other things that go on with learning somebody even more.
Your weirdness. Yeah.
Yes. Leaving your crap everywhere. But there's also the kids involved too. So it's not just you and I at home and in life and enjoying life and living it up, you know, for the first part of marriage, but we also have kids around at certain times, different times.
So let's just like break that down really quick, because honestly, before I met you, I had never even heard the term blended family, and I'm a psychologist. Okay. And so that was a new term for me, and now it's out there, but like just even talking about what a blended family is, because I think people know, you know, their family of origin. So that's the family they grew up in, you know, their parents, their siblings. And then they kind of think about the family that they're going to have one day or that they would like to create one day. But blended family is a unique phrase, term. And so really it just refers to a house where there may be a second marriage, right, or a third, or just more than it's whatever came after the first one, and there's kids involved.
Yeah, and if you really think about it, as you mentioned, it's kind of a newer term over the last few years. I mean, you know, blended family used to be like an aberration, right? But now it's like a norm.
Right.
More and more families are blended. In fact,
it's a norm too to really talk about it now as well.
Because it used to be kind of somewhat, you know, some people would be kind of embarrassed or shy away from admitting that they're a part of a blended family because shame on divorce and shame on, you know, these things. And, you know, it is more of a norm now. So it's definitely something we need to talk about, because whether you're a blended family or not, your kids may have friends also from a blended family. And so really understanding what that looks like, what that means, how to navigate some of these things, even if it's just your kids friends with a child that's of a blended family, it's going to look a little bit different. And you're going to have questions at home as well.
And there's so many dynamics. I mean, there's step siblings, half siblings, and full siblings all within the same family, even sometimes for a blended family situation. And so that's important to note also, is just, you know, someone or the couple could be bringing children from their previous relationships, and then they could have their own children. And I mean, or, you know, one person just has kids from previous marriages, and then the new, you know, as a new couple, they have kids together. I mean, there's all different variations that this could take.
Yeah. And in fact, you know, I hope you don't mind, and I know you won't. We are kind of one of the extreme cases of a blended family. You know, we've got our 17-year-old and our 8-year-old that are mine originally. Now they're your bonus kids, you like to say.
Yeah, my bonus kids.
We have our 2 younger kids, and then we have other siblings of our 17-year-old and 8-year-old, and then through that remarriage, they also have step siblings. So there's a whole bunch of kids going on, and it's, you know, It's a lot. It can be a lot to deal with, as you mentioned. There's a lot of dynamics to go on there, and
It's a lot for the kids. They have different siblings at different houses, different dynamics at different houses, right?
yeah,
Some siblings have really like much older siblings, you know, like our 8-year-old has a 17-year-old brother at our house. And then she has much younger siblings too. So she's got an 18-month-old sister at our house.
She's got a 21-year-old brother or 20-year-old brother on her mom's side,
right.
You know, which is, you know, and it adds a lot. And there are some times where, you know, at our house, our 8-year-old has her own bedroom. At her mom's house, sometimes she has her own bedroom, and sometimes she doesn't, depending on if her stepdad's kids are there or not.
Right.
So there's all kinds of things that can change. So as we talked about last week in the first episode, the one thing that we have to really understand when it comes to the kids is that it's not about us. It's all about them and doing the things that we need to do for them. Doesn't mean we put them first, by all means, but it's all about the kids when it comes to managing our emotions and how we deal with those and whatnot. So, and it's going to be even more so here. So one thing that I think, and I read some article on APA doing some research, American Psychological Association, talking about step parents, because I like to research some of this stuff and really get more information and knowledge. And so apparently step parents is really kind of trying to go away a little bit. And there's a new name, a new term called assistant parents that I just found that I was assistant parents. And that's pretty, I got me an assistant now.
I'm an APA member too, and I like to go present at that convention. That's interesting.
And
assistant parents.
What I think that we should do, because when you told this and when you brought this up to me 5 years ago, or actually a little bit longer than 5 years ago, and our kids, we really kind of drilled it into our kids, your bonus kids, that you're just a bonus mom. You are not just but you're the bonus mom. So you're not a stepmom. You're not an assistant mom. You know, you are a bonus mom, which, you know, in this situation, that's a pretty cool thing to think about, the way it's presented. I just really love that. And maybe some people don't like that, but I think it's really awesome to just look at it that way.
Yeah, and I actually got that from a friend a long time ago because she had step kids and blended family situations. She kind of started calling herself the bonus mom. And so that really stood out to me, right? And so that's one way of looking at it. That's one way of like, if you go, it's different perspectives, because I want to first put out there that there's no right or wrong way to do blended family, okay?
There are some wrong ways.
Well, okay, right. There are ways that, like, yes, we would recommend against. But when people are trying to find their comfort zone and all of that, they have to really go with their own pace, because there's so much going on in a blended family. There is the new marriage that is, you know, it's newlyweds that are put into a situation now where they're not just newlyweds, but they also have children to care for. And the kids are not necessarily like biologically part of one of that person's life, right? So there's a brand new relationship that needs to form between the bonus parent and the bonus child, right? And the reason I take that perspective is because, like, I really think that everything can be seen as a gift from God. Everything can be considered a bonus in your life if you just have that attitude towards it. And so that's why I presented it to you like that, you know, several years ago. That's why we say that in our house. That this is a cool bonus. This is something special that came out of a situation that is hard, right? That we get to know each other, that we get to be in each other's lives and love each other and influence one another and be there for each other. It is a bonus. It's a gift. I you know, and so that's how I see it. But there are some people who really can struggle with that it's hard to connect to your stepchildren, or it's hard to nurture your marriage when there are children already part of the picture. And then depending on the age of the kids too, can really change the dynamic of how that relationship is formed. You know, a teenager, for example, may find it easier or much harder to bond with their new step parent versus a younger child, like a toddler. You know, if that's all they've ever known from the age of 1 or 2 years old, it could be a lot easier to see that parent as just someone that's a part of their life and is a bonus parent. So those are all the dynamics that really go into it.
Yeah, we're going to dive into a lot of that. So I'm glad you mentioned that. The age differences is definitely a huge factor in the bonding period and whatnot, and what it makes a big difference. So I think the first thing that blended families should think about, and some of us are already way into the blended situation, and some of this stuff can still be important, is really just creating a framework and understanding communication. Living in financial situations, what does that look like? You know, just having those talks about that, understanding that, you know, wherever you choose to live, there's going to be some changes with kids and when the kids are there and whatnot. There's also a lot of, you know, when people get remarried with kids involved, there was a divorce, obviously, that took place, or maybe not a divorce, but there's a relationship that split, and now kids are involved. And most relationships don't really usually end because of good things happening, right? So it's usually something bad that happened, or some things bad over time that happened, which is why the relationship ended. And then when somebody gets remarried, there's going to be other feelings that could be, you know, that could come out from other sides, or there's a lot of emotions that can be resurfaced in different ways, whether it's from the new blended family or maybe from the ex. So those things need to be kind of talked about and discussed and just realized.
I mean, I agree with all of that. And I'm listening to you talk, and I'm also thinking about, yes, talking about all of that, you know, talking about what's it going to be like to communicate with the ex, because they are still a part of the child's life and communication is inevitable. What does it mean when there is communication? Like, does that mean that all the past feelings come up and it's like it's a situation that's easily triggered, or is this something that is handled, you know, through black and white text messages or easy communication? Like, just being able to put some boundaries around that. What are the things that we talk to the ex about when it comes to co-parenting? So establishing that as a couple is really important. And I think as a husband and wife, those are things that need to be discussed, right?
Sure.
Now, the step parent or the assistant parent, right, needs to also understand that they are not there to like judge the existing relationship between the mom and dad and their children, right? So that new parent coming in, it's not your job to see everything that's potentially wrong with the existing parent-child relationship, or that you would do differently, or that you think should be different. It's more because I hear that a lot in sessions and things like that, where, you know, maybe the new wife is critical of her husband's relationship with his teenage daughter, for example. I hear all the time, you know, he just caters to his teenager and he gives her whatever she wants, even if she's disrespectful to me. And so now it's like this competition that has formed,
resentment
between the new wife and the daughter, and the house is tense and things like that. So one of the things I like to do when I'm working with situations like this in therapy sessions is to really think about, we don't have to define everything going in either. We can absolutely define like boundaries, like what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what am I okay with or not in certain situations, and have kind of the overlay or the framework. And we'll talk about our framework as an example here in just a second. But then to also let things just happen naturally, because we don't have to think about it as, oh, that's my new husband's daughter, right? And great, he loves her more than he loves me, or whatever.
Or she gets more attention, you know.
Right. Things like that. There's a child in this house that like I could have an influence on.
Because there's going to be times where the kids can be jealous of the new relationship, or there's all kinds of things that happen, and kids know how to get the attention of their parents if they need to, and so they may demand in their own ways that attention in the beginning because they're trying to also figure out what's going on and who is this new person.
And that's status quo too. So systems like to revert back to the status quo. So, for example, if dad was single for a long time and teenage daughter had him to herself for a really long time, and all of a sudden he's married, it's going to take a toll. And so,
Sure.
you know, the recommendations to parents is make sure you're spending enough time with your children, that the new marriage doesn't take away from that relationship that you have with your kids, but then to also support that a relationship forms between your new spouse and your children. Because like I was saying earlier, you know, there is a child in this house, or there's children in this house that I can have a direct impact on. I mean, they're here every day or every week or whatever it is, and I'm a parental figure in their life. I have heard so many families who, before they've even had the experience of all living together in a home, they've decided, right? Well, you're the dad or you're the mom, and so I'm not going to take on that parenting role. I don't think that's my job. I will just be their friend. Or they've decided, you know, I will only discipline my children, and you discipline your children, and we won't get involved with each other's children. That's not real co-parenting. That's not an example of open communication and respect for the parents in the household, things like that.
Yep.
So I've actually seen that model doesn't really work very well for people.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's really important to understand, we have to understand this is going to be a new relationship. And the first thing that really should happen, just from what I think is the best way to move forward with the children, is if you are the bonus parent, step parent, assistant parent, coming in, the really first thing you should focus on is building that relationship with that kid, building a bond with that child. And that can happen very quickly in some cases, and it can take a really long time in some cases. But before that bond really builds and it's built, there's not a whole lot of parenting you really can do in a lot of ways. You can't step in and parent a child that you don't have a relationship with. There's no respect or trust there completely. There's a lot of things that go into that. And so there's going to be a lot of communication between the parents, the bonus parent and the biological parent.
Yeah.
Before
and that's true for biological parents. I mean, in therapy in general, we work all the time on improving the parent-child relationship, even in a biological situation, because it's very hard for kids to take the lead of a parent if there's no rapport or trust or love and tenderness in that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. It just makes perfect sense, you know. And I think some things that we've talked about on the podcast over and over and over again when it comes to parenting is presenting as a united front. So that's the key for the bonus parent and the bio parent, is to really have some great conversations, be open to communication. If there are concerns that present to the bonus parent, to talk about that behind closed doors, you know, and figure out the best way to work on some of these things. And one thing that I've seen just with our blended family is, you know, it's really easy to get caught up in love and that relationship, and marriage does come first, and, you know, whatever your biblical beliefs are or whatever not, but, you know, you're still in the honeymoon phase we talked about. So it's really easy to focus more on your new marriage than it is on the kids, and the kids end up seeing that and they feel like they're being left out. So it's important, I think, and you can kind of go into more detail about this, but having those conversations with your children, even before marriage and even during the early parts of the marriage, throughout the marriage, that, you know, I'm not, you know, I haven't forgotten about you, and I still love you, and we may not spend as much time together, but maybe we dedicate, you know, a certain night of the week that we just spend time together, like with our 17-year-old son. Every Tuesday we play tennis, or we do something together regardless, to make sure that there is that special time that's still being given, even if it's not as much as it used to be.
No, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that, because as I've said it here before, you know, you have to think about things from your child's perspective and then communicate it to them that way. They always want to know, really, like, ultimately, what does this mean for me, right? And so kids are going to want to know, okay, Dad, you married this new person. Now, what does that mean for me? Ultimately, that's what they want to know. And so being able to break it down for them. So here's what it means. You know, we get to spend time with your new bonus mom and my wife, right? We get to do things as a family. We get to have more home-cooked meals, or whatever it may look like. Because
she ain't gonna cook them, but
now there's two people, right, that are helping to run the household. means you're going to have more help on your homework. It means you're going to have more time with not just me, but with her too. And here's what our time's going to look like from now on. I'm going to make sure that we still spend time together and you still get access to me whenever you need me. It also means that eventually, as we get to all know each other and feel comfortable with each other, that we're going to all make rules together. And, you know, me and bonus mom or me and bonus dad are going to do that for this household. So we're organized as a family, and we create a safe and loving and secure environment for you guys, because you're the kids, and ultimately we want to do things that are in your best interest.
Yeah, and it made me think of a few things, you know, just that bonding relationship. One thing that you do very, very well with your two bonus kids is you also spend time with them. And we've talked about this just in the parent-child relationship. The best way to bond with your new bonus kids is to really enter their world. What do they like? And just spend time observing them and asking questions and just being inquisitive about, you know, who they are and whatnot. That builds a relationship. Kids love that. Kids love when anyone enters their world and is a part of that. And that can be very easy to do without all the past history of what's gone on and whatnot. And there's going to be times also, though, in some situations, and this can happen a lot, where kids, there's a lot of damage that's happened to the kids because of the marriage relationship or the previous relationship between mom and dad not working out, and depending on how ugly the split was. And so we really need to talk about, like, there may be some help that's needed in those areas and being supportive of that.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, I actually saw this post on Facebook in some kind of like moms group, and the question was about, you know, my stepdaughter is asking me to buy her mom a Christmas present this year because the mom doesn't acknowledge me and the kids are hurt by that. And so they suggested to me, like, hey, why don't you get her a gift this year for Christmas? Maybe that'll make her like you more. And the question was to the group was like, what do I do? Like, if I get her something, she'll probably just throw it away. And like, what if the kids see her throw it away? And that's going to hurt them even more. And, you know, where this stepmom's heart was in the right place. Like, I want to do what's right for these kids. I don't want to set them up to be hurt even more. It makes me really sad that they're even having to witness all of this. She's always going to be their mom. I never want to take that position away from her. And at the same time, like, they open up to me about these things and they're not talking to her about these things. What do I do? And she just kind of puts it out there for anyone to comment on. I mean, those are real life situations, right? And the kids are affected by the dynamics between the adults, whether the adults are getting along or not. They are hurt by those things because ultimately there is a lot of potential for a step parent to mean a lot to your child. I mean, that could be a key relationship in their life. It could be someone they go to, they trust, they open up to that person more than they would even open up to their biological parents. And you would hope that the adults were mature enough or beyond themselves enough to create a situation so that the step parent did need to come and say, hey, like, you know, the child is saying these things and I'm really worried about it, that step parent has the room to speak about that on the behalf of the child. In this situation, it's not like that. And that's more common than we would like to see or know about.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense too. I mean, if you really look at true research, it shows that to really raise a great kid, it takes 5 key adults that have a serious positive impact in their childhood and their growth and development. You know, and I know it's tough with past emotions and whatnot, but those have to just be let go. Because what ends up happening, I mean, really, we should look at it like this. You are a bonus mom. Everyone should be happy that you care enough to even want to take on some additional children in your life. I mean, it's a big commitment. I mean, it really is. And then imagine what we're teaching our kids, because our kids see everything. You know, like we talked about it just a couple episodes ago. They're, you know, everything they learn the majority of what they learn is caught, not taught, and they're catching all that we're doing. You mentioned that sometimes kids will open up more to a step parent or bonus parent than they will their own biological parents. And a lot of that is because the bio parents are still in all the negative past stuff. They just never let go. And so there's nothing ever positive to talk about, where the bonus parent can come in and just, again, enter their life and you know, and be present and not have all the negativity and whatnot. So, and then the last thing that I want to share is, if we really want to show God's love and how big it is, the best way to do that is to see all these people really just getting along for the actual best interest of that child.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I mean, it takes a village, right? And I mean, even within the home. So like, we're talking about blended families and co-parenting within the blended family. Like, let's get to that now, because we're talking about all the dynamics and what can happen outside of the family situation inside the house because of the other parents and all of that. But even in the home, when a blended family is starting to blend and they're starting to form and like understand each other, I highly recommend that parents and kids just take time to understand each other, right? Like, there's this period of just observing and feeling it out and understanding like what's working and what's not. There's a ladybug on my cup. It's distracting me.
That's good luck.
I just hope he doesn't like crawl in, right? Anyways, so
Be thirsty.
Taking a few minutes to observe, not a few minutes, a few months, right? A few months or
Take some time.
Some time, right? To to really just learn each other and to feel comfortable in the same space. And I mean, you're not just moving in with your spouse, you're moving in with an entire family sometimes, right? I mean, that was my situation. And so, like, I'm just learning where the light switches are in the house and, like, what the schedules are, because
who does the dishes?
Into your house, right? Yeah. How do you like the dishwasher loaded? And this is my laundry. Here you go, right? So, you know, just things like that. And then there's children there too.
Where do I put all my things and all my books and everything else?
Yeah. And so the foundation of any parent-child relationship really is the relationship. It's the key piece. And so spending time with the kids, learning about them, going out of your way as the adult to really lead that is so important. And opening up that communication in a non-judgmental way. Now, the things that the married couple can establish ahead of time, because I don't recommend establishing every little thing ahead of time, like, oh, they're your kids, so you discipline them and I'll be hands-off. Like, I don't recommend that at all. I fully recommend just watching and seeing kind of how things play out naturally. But the things that you can establish for your kids, because again, they're going to want to know, what does this mean for me now that you're married, Dad, right? Well, it means that she's my wife, so God first, then marriage, then family, and everything else after that.
No more sleeping in my bed.
You know, no more sleeping in my bed. Good. That's a perfect example, because when she was 2, she was still there. And that's when we got married, right? And so sleep training became a part of it. So no more sleeping in my bed. My wife sleeps in bed with me. Or if my wife says something, right, to you or gives you directions, respect her as an adult in this house and follow those directions.
I don't have to listen to you. You're not my mom.
Right. But if you establish that of, well, actually, we're the parents in this home and you need to listen to the adults in this home, regardless of if she's your mom or not. At school, you listen to your teacher, don't you? I mean,
right.
There are rules in this house. So, I mean, those are the kinds of things that I do recommend you go over with the kids, right, before the marriage happens or before everybody moves in together or whatever. And then once everybody is together in the home, it's not about the new parent coming in and, like, changing everything overnight. Because there's the temptation to do that, trust me. It's
redecorating everything.
Organically figuring out where you fit in, taking time to really understand the dynamics and how you fit in and what the family feels like now that you're here. And, you know, focusing on that personal relationship with the kids. Once you've established that, trust and respect and all of that really comes very naturally. But the parents have to present as a united front at all times. This co-parenting piece is, it stands for every situation, right? Yep. The divorce situation, the regular family, the nuclear family situation, and then the blended family situation. That co-parenting piece is so important.
Yeah, and when we speak about that, there's a lot of things that happen in life, and we make mistakes as people, and relationships are broken, divorce happens, these types of things. But if we're really failing forward, and I hate to say that about marriage and whatnot, but it is happening. It does happen. It's blended families are more of a norm now than ever. Um, you know, we should be getting better at being better at family, right? Understanding what's more important. If we're getting remarried, then maybe we are having those thoughts inside ourselves. And the reason why I'm saying that is because to build those bonds and relationships, everyone wants to be a part of a family. There's a lot of kids out there that actually find more of a family setting at their friend's house because of how the family relationship works there, how the parents are involved, dinner time, things like that. I've seen that growing up myself with different friends. And one thing that also can happen is like we can have this brand new family setting where we get the kids all involved. The kids are going to be involved in, setting family rules and expectations, as you mentioned earlier. Kids actually love that stuff. Doing things together as the family, doing more things, taking vacations or going hiking, just doing fun things as a family. Kids really love those things. It may take a little bit for them to really start to buy in, especially depending on how old they are or not. But once they start to buy in, man, they love it. But that also can cause a lot of, I guess, envy or resentment on the other side. When the child goes back to the other parent's house, they tell the other parent all the stuff that they're doing now. We have dinner every night. We do this, we do that. And, we do all these things as a family, and if that wasn't happening in the previous family setting, then there can be some resentment too. And then we see that, we hear that from friends and whatnot as well.
Yeah, I mean, in those situations, if you're reacting to the life that your child gets to have at the bonus parent's house, right? You probably need to work that out in therapy, because it's not about you, right? It's about your child and setting them up for the best possible situation. I mean, knowing that you can send your child over to their dad's house or to their mom's house and feeling secure in the fact that, when they're there, they're safe and they're loved and they're cared for. Ultimately, that's the most important thing. And so any parent would say that. If I were one-to-one in a therapy session with a parent, I've never had someone deny that that's what they care about when it comes to their own child. And so, getting refocused on what's ultimately the most important thing is part of, someone like an adult or divorced person's own therapeutic process. And that's when I would say, well, it seems like they probably need to go do a little bit of work on themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and the most important thing ultimately is really the family. I mean, now there's a family. It's not just a marriage. It's not just the kids. It's the actual family itself. And at the end of the day, it's not a competition, right? We wish we hope the kid has the best experiences on both sides. But when the child is confident and comfortable and secure at both homes, and they can speak freely about anything that's going on at both homes, that's when the kid really thrives and we see great things.
All right. Great topic today.
All right. So you want to close up with any just highlights?
I think again, don't rush it. Go at your own pace when you're trying to form a new family, and especially if it's a blended situation, right? Because every family and every dynamic is going to be different. And some parts of it are challenging, but a lot of parts of it can be really fun and really special. And that's the bonus part of it, right? And so it's really about your mindset. If you can focus on the fact that, like, this is a gift, like, we get to be in each other's lives. The divorce is unfortunate. However, look at the cool things that can come out of it. And you take that approach, you can really have some good success with being curious about who these kids are that are new in your life. And now, you signed up for it. And so that radical acceptance of just like, okay, this is my role now because I signed up for it by marrying this person. We're coming together and we're going to make the most out of it.
Yeah. You just made me think about just when we first got married with our 2-year-old at the time and 9-year-old.
Mm-hmm. No, he was 11.
11-year-old. Okay. Yeah. Time goes by fast. Wow. Some of the just really cool, like, memories, like, our 2-year-old sitting at the table and she starts drinking out of your straw and she thinks it's so funny. And
it was really funny.
and just some of the experience, some of the pictures we have, some of the things that we did, and just seeing you light up because you're getting a big hug. It is a lot, it can be really, it is really rewarding. But it also is very challenging. So I like the advice, taking it, just as it comes. You can't force it. You can't rush it. You can't buy me love. So we're going to close for today. So thank you for joining us for the Parent Survival Kit from Surviving to Thriving in Your Household. This was part 2, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks so much.